Alright, guys. I think we're long overdue for another Miitopia episode. So that's what I'm gonna do. Alright, I'm probably gonna switch out Rupert for someone else. But I kind of just wanted to jump straight into it, and I can't really change him now, because if I do, the game will freeze. I have to do it outside of the game. So I'll do that off screen later on. But yeah, this this past week and a half has actually been pretty good. So I figured it would be a good time to get another Miitopia episode out so I can talk about it. Now, I did try to do an Animal Crossing New Leaf recording. I believe it was, last Friday, a week ago, but I'm having second thoughts, to be honest. An Animal Crossing Let's Play is something I might want to do eventually, but for now, I kind of just want to play the games off screen. So yeah. However, what I am... Like I said, I'm in the mood to do another Miitopia episode. Alright. Okay, let's... He's gonna... Not Rupert. I'm probably gonna make him look like Vaughn from Harvest Moon and, change his name to Vaughn, but still, it's technically gonna be him, this particular me itself, that's gonna be one of the main teammates, so I gotta get him acquainted with the horse. Oh yeah, it won't, I mentioned this towards the beginning, but you can use horse whispering with the controllable teammates mod. It just won't let you know that you've unlocked it, but you can still use it. I made that mistake because I remember mentioning, oh, unfortunately you can't use horse whispering unless it's you still can't use horse whispering unless it's your own or I mean, your main teammate, but I later realized that I was wrong. You can use it. It just doesn't tell you that you've unlocked it unless it's your main teammate still. It's very bizarre, I know. Very bizarre. Alright. Alright. Hold on a sec. Wait. Huh. finally talked to the one of the Fab Fairy fans. I forgot to put the I forgot to return the other two fans' faces. Huh. Well, that was very weird on my very forgetful on my part, but we're doing it now. No. 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 I'm trying to talk to the middle dude. Hush. There we freaking go. Thank you. Oh, what about the mischievous Fab Fairy? Did I get her face yet? I don't know. Alright. Hold on. Okay, so I did save her face. Yeah, I've been doing these few and far between because I want it to last. I want this Let's Play to last. And when I do come back to do another Let's Play, I actually like to have stuff to talk about. So that's why I don't really do these Let's Plays. I don't really do my Miitopia, or, you know, record or release my Miitopia episodes. Very recently is because, number one, I want to savor it, and number two, like I said, I want to have stuff to talk about, because if I do it too frequently, I'm not gonna. So, yeah. Alright. We'll just go here for now. I meant to do the royal wave. Alright. Double scratch. Okay, royal wave. Yep. Alright. Alright, you guys can probably hear me better now. My mic wasn't exactly positioned. Alright. But yeah. Oh, alright. So yeah. I guess I'll do a review about, how the year has been so far, how January has been. The highlights and all that good stuff. Do we have the jewels? Ah, we do. Alright. We can go through the dead end. But yeah. I've discussed this with you guys before. But, as some of especially if you know me really well, Ashton and the two Ethans. And maybe Eli. I don't know if Eli was aware, but Ashton and the two Ethans. You probably know that January is, generally my least favorite month of the year. So, I was kind of going in with I was kind of keeping my guard up, kind of being hyper vigilant. Because January is just usually, not just in general, but during specific years, it's usually just one of, the most mundane month. Although there are exceptions. For example, in 2024, I actually had a pretty decent January. April was, okay, but it ended very disastrously. And May was, pretty stressful. But I do have some good memories of May 2024, but it was a bit, not disastrous, but just kind of stressful. But, April 30th of 2024 was kind of disastrous. And then, last year in 2025, January was, at first it was okay, I was really motivated to work on my Wattpad projects, last January. But for some reason, towards, the last week of January, I just started to feel off, as I usually do during January. I don't know, maybe it's because of the cold, I'm not getting as much sun in January. Post-holiday blues. I can't really describe it, but yeah. Unsurprisingly, last year in 2025, January was probably my least favorite part. February and October did have some stressful stuff too, but at the same time, there was some excitement mixed into those 2 months. as for this year, it like after it actually got better, towards the halfway mark, because for the first couple of weeks I was just bored to death. Okay, I was bored to death, and I was just trying to drag myself to the 15th. I mentioned this, and I believe, some of my Island of Happiness LPs, but, Let's Play episodes, some of my more recent ones, but on the 15th is when we got the Animal Crossing 3.0 update. And that came with like a whole new a whole new feature, the hotel and then like tourists. I actually unlocked that aspect today. But it also came with quality of life improvements. Quality of life improvements that people have been asking for since the beginning of the game, since it first released. And one of the main things is bulk crafting. You used to have to craft one item at a time, and usually, you would only have to craft one item at a time, but there would be times where you would have to craft multiple items at a time, such as fish bait, and it was just tedious. Just, standing there, pressing, spamming the A button over again. Crafting only one fish bait at a time. Yeah, it was tedious. So they implemented bulk crafting finally. And not only that, but they also made it to where we don't have to have, the materials on us. Because when we wanted to craft something, we would have to go into our house, get into our storage, and take out all the items that we need to craft. And then once we crafted an item, we would have to go back and put them back in our storage. The leftover materials. And it just made things like, it just made crafting a pain, to be honest. I'm not the most patient person. So, I didn't really make, get the best out of the crafting aspect of New Horizons. Prior to the 3.0 update. I've been crafting a lot more now that we have it. Because, it may seem small, but it really does make a big difference. Bulk crafting and not having to pull items out of your storage, because that just takes up space in your pockets. Just let me leave my gosh darn items in my storage. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's so much easier to craft now. So, like I said, I've been using it a lot more than I used to. I used to only use it when I had to. Like if a tool broke, or if I really wanted to craft something, or like needed to for like a quest. Then yeah, but otherwise, you know, my I just didn't have the patience. Due to how much of a rigmarole, for lack of better words, it used to be. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I was, just not patiently, but impatiently waiting for the 15th. Oh god. Oh my god. Spare us all. Oh my goodness. Alright, hold on. Jesus freaking Christ, man. Alright, which one do I put in the safe spot? I'll put Rupert. He's probably... No, I'll put Ethan. Ethan is probably gonna be our strongest attacker. Oh my goodness, we got lucky. Alright. Oh, okay, well, okay, that was easier than I expected. But yeah. You know, playing Animal Crossing New Horizons, it's just a lot more fun now. Oh boy. Because, I want to, because, crafting is an important part of the game. Because you can, like, make decorations for your island. You can make furniture for your house. They have put a massive focus on crafting. You get DIY recipes for, like, doing different things and, like, during different holidays. So not having the quality of life improve, updates to it, it, it really tested my patience. But now that it has those, like I said, I've been crafting a lot more. And yeah, I did, delete my previous island, and then, I started a new island. During midnight when the update finally released. And ever since then, January has actually picked up for me. Not only did we get the Animal Crossing update, but I also had my Social Security appointment. But I kind of misunderstood, because I thought my dad and I were going to go up there and, like, do it in person. I thought we were going to go up there, they were going to give us a bunch of paperwork, and then we were going to come back. But I was wrong. What had happened was, they called my dad's phone, And then, I had to answer a bunch of questions about, like, my weight, my height, where I was born, what my school life is like, my, well, they say job history, but it's more like, lack thereof. And yeah, they were like asking all these crazy questions. And yeah, it was a bit nerve wracking, but I'm happy we I'm happy that we got that done. And then, in a couple of weeks, I believe, they're gonna send my dad some paperwork in the mail. And I think it's like that's for if he wants to like add some stuff and whatnot. So yeah, I did that last week on Tuesday, January 20th. Oh, come the fuck on. Why are they buying bananas? You guys have plenty. Sorry the if my mic is loud. My dad adjusted it and he set it up on my computer desk, but it's like right in my mouth, so now if I talk loud it's like too loud. Man, why can't there be a mod to get rid of the fuck ass wrong purchase? So-called feature. Like, it is absolutely unnecessary. I mean, at the very least, they should make it like a personality quirk for like the airheaded Miis. Or they should only like, or it should only like, trigger if like we have like, a certain number of like bananas or candy. Like if we have like fewer than, I don't know, 10 bananas or fewer than 10 candies, then like maybe it can activate. But as long as we have like 50 of each or so, then we should be safe from the feature activating, because we need weapons, we need clothes. And sometimes like they'll like buy like, several times in a row, and oh my goodness. Green Ethan, I have no idea how you can be so calm about it. I just want to punch a hole through my computer screen, and you're just nonchalantly going, oh my god. Oh my. I remember I was laughing really hard during one of my Let's Play episodes back in like early 2021 or late 2021, early 2022. Because I just found it hilarious how you can be so calm and nonchalant. And it just makes me want to jump into my computer screen and strangle my Miis. Well, I'm not gonna do horse whispering because they're just lousy snurps. If it was like a more powerful enemy, then sure, but considering I'll drain all his MP, like, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Lord, oh my god. And I hate how they smile too when they do it. What the fuck are you smiling for? You know what you did? This is not gonna end well. But yeah, after the appointment, my dad set up my doctor's appointment. It was gonna be the following Friday. But thanks to the winter storm, it got moved to yesterday actually. You know, I had the appointment yesterday. And the appointment was so I could get referred to a neurologist. But they also checked, like, you know, my weight and, you know, my pulse, my blood pressure, my vitals. And then my doctor checked my heart. Well, not my heartbeat, but like she was putting the stethoscope on my back and having me breathe. Yeah, I mean, I was a little nervous when I first, like, you know, went in to get my vitals checked, because, you know, that is very nerve-wracking, but at the same time, you know, I was actually kind of looking forward to the doctor's appointment because, you know, it feels good to make all this process or progress with my whole, you know, social security, ID, bank account, you know, just all that stuff. You know, I got approved for an ID last year in June, then I got it in the mail in July. Then we did my social security appointment, you know, Tuesday of last week, and then, you know, I got referred to a neurologist, you know, yesterday. And, you know, that's a lot more than what I can usually say about January. Usually during January, things just feel stagnant and bleak in general. So to know that we got some of this stuff done during, like, this very month, you know, it feels good, and, you know, it feels very refreshing. You know, when good stuff happens in January, I don't take it for granted, because usually January is just a bleak month in general. Not just for me, but, you know, there's, like, you know, a lot of studies show that, you know, January is the most widely, you know, had month, you know, the most widely had least favorite month. I'm getting rid of this bitch ass Torquey. Stop healing yourselves. Okay, good. So yeah, and then, like I said, in a couple of weeks, my dad is probably going to get some stuff in the mail from the Social Security's office. And I think he can use that to, add on certain things, like, information from my neurology appointment. Because, I have been diagnosed with neurofibromatosis already. But, my dad thinks it'll be good for me to get, like, an up to date diagnosis. It won't look as concrete if, because I was diagnosed when I was like 1, and I don't even know if they even if the Social Security is gonna even be able to access the medical systems from where I was diagnosed anymore. So yeah, and I agree with him. It'll be a good idea to get me like a concrete or an up to date diagnosis, because that will give the Social Security, the workers, more concrete evidence. And yeah, and I'm assuming like that will probably be in a couple of months. My neurology appointment, because it may take a couple of weeks too for them to get the information and to like I don't know if they're gonna get me an appointment set up or if my dad's gonna have to do it. It would be awesome if they could do it, because okay, finally, Jesus Christ. There we freaking go. You see, guys? Was that hard? Was that so hard? But yeah, but what I was saying is, I'm really hoping they can get me. It would be awesome if they could get the appointment set up, is because my dad, he does tend to he tends to procrastinate, because he gets busy at work, and then like he gets like tired, and then he like he's tired from work. So if they could set up the appointment, that would be a big help. But we'll see. And my doctor told me that I may actually have to go to a genetic. I don't a gen. I don't know, a geneticist. I might have to go there as well, but I guess we'll see. I will always be a little bit nervous for doctor's appointments, but you know, these doctor's appointments I actually want to have, because it's gonna get me. They're basically, they're stepping stones, for me, for my social security, maybe like medical insurance, my bank account, and even eventually publishing my books and getting into my programs. you know, they're basically stepping stones towards all that. So, and I'll do what I have to, within reason, of course. And if that's getting through some neurology and geneticist appointments, then, or genetic appointments, then, so be it. I will do it. And then it'll probably be another couple of months before I actually have the neurology appointment. Ooh, nice. Ugh, she's about to burp. Ugh. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Woo! I mean, Rupert is an equestrian, so that suits him really well. Hell, even Vaughn, I think he has a soft spot for horses too. Oh my god. Ooh, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Alright, come on, Ethan. Purple Ethan. Ooh. Horse again. Ooh. Ooh. All right. Oh my fucking god. Rupert really carried our team in for this fight. Yeah, you deserve these points. Not only did you carry the team, but you are behind. We need to get you caught up. But yeah, the thing is, I'm not too in a rush to have my neurology appointment because the whole Social Security, it could take them. They said that it could take like 7 to 7.5 months for them to look through all my stuff. So we probably won't get an answer until like August. But, I still don't want to just, lollygag and wait around to get my neurology or any other future appointments set up, because it could end up being too late. So I still want to get these appointments set up and at a reasonable time and on reasonable dates. And then, my dad told me back in, yesterday. He said, in spring we'll probably go up to the Social Security office and get my card. I thought we were going to do it sometime between, you know, sometime in January, but I guess we're going to do it in spring. Oh my god, why does he take pictures of us suffering? Snaps, you're a masochist. I mean, you're not masochist. You're a sadist, is what you are. So yeah, it feels really good that we got, my social security appointment and, referral doctor's appointment both done during this month. I'm curious about, the social security. I mean, not social security, but the neurologist appointment. I'm curious about what all it'll entail. Like, I'm nervous, but at the same time, I can't help but be a bit curious as well. What are they gonna do exactly? I mean, I know they're probably gonna ask me questions and take a look at me, but man, I'm definitely very curious about how that will go. And like I said, I could possibly go to like a geneticist instead. I guess time will tell. Now, unfortunately, I don't know if I'm gonna get like an autism spectrum disorder or an ADHD diagnosis out of this. Because, I was supposed to go to a psychologist either in, late 2023 or early 2024, but that never happened, so that might be something I'll have to do on my own eventually, but one thing I will say about, neurofibromatosis, I've looked into my condition because, you should. I think it's important, for people to research their condition, especially if they're experiencing certain symptoms that could be associated with it. Because, it can be comforting and reassuring. And, I have and I have done research about neurofibromatosis and how it's linked to autism and like especially ADHD, and I relate to both of them. When I was a child, I didn't think too much about me having ADHD because the way I saw it portrayed, it was extremely exaggerated. So I would like look at ADHD stuff and I would be like, yeah, no, that's not me. But, I know better now that, ADHD can, varies between person to person in terms of symptoms, experiences, struggles, and severities. I would tell my neurologist, when I have that appointment, a bit later into the year, that I have ADHD symptoms, but, well, I don't know. Maybe Nana will take me. Because, I've tried talking with my dad about it, but he just doesn't believe me for some reason. He doesn't believe that I could have ADHD. You know, Nana does. I mean, she knows that, I don't have it, like, severely, because, her and I have both, seen ADHD be portrayed and expressed in a very, in a very severe way. But at the same time, she does understand that I do have it, mildly at least. Or maybe not do have it, but could have it. Same with autism spectrum disorder. Matter of fact, that's the one she believes that, I, I experience more of between, the two, autism and ADHD. But I personally relate to both. Do I relate to all symptoms necessarily? No. Do I have severe autism or severe ADHD? Not necessarily. But I do relate to a lot of it. For autism spectrum disorder, I do have impaired social skills. I do have sensory issues. I do hate it when my routine is disrupted, and, like, being in, like, new environments can be extremely distressing for me. Those are some of my main symptoms of autism. And then, ADHD. I'm very fidgety. I tend to, it's hard for me to relax, sit still. I have racing thoughts. I can be impulsive, you know. Sometimes I do struggle to think before saying and doing certain stuff. And then it's hard for me to really focus, and then, it's hard for me to stick with, like, tedious tasks like brushing and flossing. Even writing, as much as I love to write, sometimes when I do try to work on, like, my Wattpad projects, for example, a lot of the times, like, I just get, do little by little because I don't always feel motivated to really work on them. You know, that that is another is another symptom of ADHD. As a matter of fact, is, lack of motivation. I struggle with that. Ketchup, ketchup, ketchup. So yeah. But it depends. It's a neurology appointment, not a psychology appointment. So I don't even know if me telling them, that I experience autism and ADHD symptoms will really do anything for me. But then again, like I said, I have looked into it. They are linked to neuropyramidoses, so who knows? I didn't really think of the possibility of me having ADHD until 2022. But even looking back, like when I was like a child, I experienced a lot of symptoms then. During my school age years. For example, I would constantly lose everything. Like my mom would force me to bring a jacket to school, and then like she would get mad at me because I would end up losing it. And it makes no sense. It's like you're the one that is forcing me to bring a jacket against my will, and I'm trying to prevent myself from losing it by not bringing a jacket to school, you're but you get mad at me if I don't want to bring a jacket, or if I do bring a jacket and then like I lose it, and it's like, what do you want from me? Like, pick your poison, you know what I mean? Pick your poison wisely. If you don't want me to lose, if you're really upset about me losing my jackets, then don't make me bring them, because I don't want to bring them anyway. I'm only gonna be outside for like 2 minutes. Like, if I was like gonna be outside for extended periods of time, and then like it's like really cold outside, then yes, that would be understandable. But if it's just a little chilly outside and I'm hardly gonna be out there throughout the day, like, what's the point in forcing me to bring a jacket to school? And I just don't understand it. And then and sometimes I would like leave my lunchbox in like my like other classrooms. Like, I remember one particular time I was in the 8th grade, and then I left my lunchbox in my science class, and I didn't realize it until it was time for lunch. So when I went to go grab it, I you know in my in the class I had before lunch, like, it I realized it wasn't there. So I remember I was panicking, I was like crying, I was freaking out. So then went I don't know if I went to like any of my other previous classes, but I do remember I went to my science teacher's class, Miss McLean, and there it was. It was sitting on her shelf, and I can't tell you how relieved I was. I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, thank God!" And then there was like a student in front of me, and like I scared them. And then everyone was like looking at me like I was, well, one of the students was looking at me like I was crazy. And then when I left, everyone started freaking out, and then I overheard the teacher, telling them to settle down. It was kind of funny. Like, at first I was crying, and then I left. Then I left the place laughing my ass off because of how it all transpired. And then, like, I would, like, lose homework. I would half-ass homework because I just wanted to get it freaking over with. Like, I was, like, apathetic. I would constantly lose my pencils, my pen, I would even lose, like, and I would struggle to stay organized. Yeah. It was a mess. Like, I had so much trouble during school keeping up with my belongings, and staying organized. And looking back, that could have possibly been because of my my undiagnosed, ADHD that I didn't even think about at the time. You guys are really pissing me off. Me, not you, not the viewers, not you guys. I'm talking about my me's. Oh my god. Okay, good. And deadlines. I struggle with deadlines so much. You know, it's another topic for another day, but, homework is not homework is not always the best thing to give to a child with, ADHD or, some type of other neurodevelopmental disorder. There's, like I said, there's times where I would half-ass it. There's times where I would just not do it. There's times where I would, like, lose it. Like, oh my god. It was a mess. I'm not saying I had a bad school life, but, in general, but, it was often very messy. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna be updating you guys as time goes on. Like I said, hopefully I'll have my neurology appointment sometime in the spring, and I'll get my social security card in the spring. Like I said, I think my grandmother's gonna take me to both of those. Which is probably for the best, because, number one, my dad has work, and, it may not always be good for him to always take off work because of this. Whereas my grandmother, on the other hand, my grandparents are retired, so they have all the time in the world. And I do feel more comfortable, you know. Well, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm gonna tell them. Like, I mean, if if it's applicable, I will. But I do feel more comfortable, talking to my neurologist. The neurologist that I'll get about me possibly having ADHD. With my grandmother there, because she believes that I could have it mildly at least, but my dad it just is flat out like, no, you don't have it. So yeah. But yeah, like I said, I'll definitely update you guys on all that. I am really glad, this, well, at least the second half. The first half of January was boring AF. The first half, yeah. The first half of January was boring as fuck. But the second half was actually pretty nice, considerably eventful and stuff. Thanks to the Animal Crossing update, my social security appointment, and then, my referral appointment that I had yesterday. And usually I feel blah during January. Thankfully, I actually haven't felt that bad, during this January. But I have felt weird though. But not necessarily in a bad way. Like, I can't really describe it. Like, I just feel weird, but not like in a bad way like I usually do during January. Like, I don't know. I can't really describe it, but it's, I don't know. I just feel, I don't know. It's bizarre. I can't really describe it. Maybe I'll feel more normal again when February comes. I I don't know. I guess a lot of it is maybe because I have a lot on my mind due to all of this. I'm kind of I'm still kind of shaken up with the whole social security appointment because that was nerve-wracking, and I heard that you could get charged with perjury if you don't say something like accurate. Like, it it's it's very weird. Maybe I'll feel better once it's all said and done. I mean, well, not better. I don't feel bad, but normal. I'll feel normal again. Oh boy. And yeah, and sometimes your social security benefits will get like denied the first time, so I'm also a bit worried about that. So, yeah. I guess it's just all these mixed feelings, nervousness, but also happy that I'm finally making progress. Maybe it's I just have lots of mixed emotions and mixed situations going on right now that's causing me to like feel this kind of weird way. I don't know, but maybe I'll feel better in February. Maybe I'll feel better. once the social security stuff is all said and done, but I guess time will tell. Alright, we unlocked Krakatana, I think it's pronounced. But yeah, I think this will be a good spot to end it, guys. I enjoyed our little discussion that we had, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.